Purple's back from the shop today. It's been about 15 days since we brought it to the shop in hopes of getting our AC and power steering troubles looked at. A lot of new parts later, it looks like we finally got ice cold AC and smooth power steering. So now it's time to get back to our build out. One of the important things that we wanted to add to this van before we left was cruise control. You see, it was a FedEx van, so it doesn't have it at all, which means we have to add the switch, the wiring, and the programming. Well, I'm only going to be showing you in this video how to do the switch and the wiring. Programming is going to be a totally different topic. Today we're going to be installing cruise control on a T1N Sprinter. So in this video we are going to be taking the ECM down from where it hides. We're going to be removing the connectors from it. We're going to be inserting new connectors into it. The manual officially says 18 gauge wire. It also says some type of electrical connector. In terms of other materials for this, you're just going to need the official cruise control switch and some wires. And that's pretty much it. Oh, and somebody to program it after, but that's an extra step. So let's get right into it. Now, one of the first steps, your battery negative terminal, you want to make sure that's completely disconnected. You want to make sure it's at least been an hour or two before you mess with it. This has been unplugged all night, so I'm not worried about the airbag going off at all. The first step in the new method is going to be to remove the screw here and the screw here with your tiniest screwdriver available. As you can see, this Extron Electronics small one I have, man, this thing is awesome. I don't know if you can buy these online, I sure hope so. After you get those two screws off, this cover pretty much just pulls straight up and out. Mercedes-Benz, made in Germany. All right, cool. So now from the top side, you can see where I'm going to be adding the cruise control stock. You can also see how freaking dirty it is in there. Ooh. Of course, you guys know how this bottom cover works by now. I still don't fully. Exactly, just like that. There's Phillips head, and a 10mm nut here that holds the plastic to the steering column. All right, so you want the printing on it to face towards you, of course. Bingo. Like that, it's in. Let's get a close-up on this. So there is basically just this little slot that it goes into, right? Then it just pushes right in. Boom, that's it. Now it's all about running the wire proper and getting the screw in on the back side here, which is going to be pretty easy. Just for reference, this is what the screw looks like that holds the cruise control switch to the multifunction switch here. And it's also got that sled in it as a failsafe. If you've got a lot of Sprinter screws laying around and you don't know which one's for your cruise control stock, it looks something like this. Pro tip, there is just barely enough room for you to wiggle your fingers back here and get the screw into the hole and at least get it started. That's going to make your life so much easier when doing this instead of trying to lift the screw up. But as you can see, it's in the hole. I just have to get it to turn now. Believe it or not, this was the easy part. Now we've got to wire it in. But okay, as you know, this switch itself already has its own small little wiring harness. I have the other end of this along with the ECU pins. So I'm just going to kind of make an amalgamation there. Now, this is the other end of the cruise control harness, and ideally this female end here is already hanging out of your ECU. In the event that it's not, well, you're going to have to acquire this or make this with your own 18 gauge wire and get the proper connections. So there it is at one end. And then at this end, I've chopped it off, but actually, it would ideally go into the F connector on your OM647 wiring harness. This is going to differ for the 0203 with the OM612. Here, as you can see, I've chopped it. This is probably a sin to most people. I don't care. So now it's just about finding the right pins on here and pulling them out. As you can see, this is the other end. These are the pins that connect into the ECM. Okay, so here's where things are going to get tricky for most people. For those who aren't so electrically inclined, you're probably already pulling the cruise control from a parts van or a donor van or a junkyard van of some kind. See if they have the wiring harness too. You only need the F block, just snip snip. And in my opinion, it's going to be a lot harder to find these types of connectors than it is going to be to find just the spade connectors that connect the cruise control harness to the ECM. And luckily, these connectors all come apart like Legos. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to point to all the terminals I've highlighted here with Sharpie and tell you what each of them go to. We've got 3 separate blocks here. So these are power wires for various bits and pieces of the ECM, whatever. We don't care about that. The 2 that we care about are this black one right here and this white one right here. Now, you have to know how to read these connectors, otherwise you're going to get confused really quick. You see 7, 20, 19, 32. Well, basically the way you read this is you start at 7, you end at 19, and then you come back up this way to 20, and then end at 32 again. So let's say in this case, I need this pin right here. So this pin, if I want to know what pin number this is, I'd start at 33 here, and I'd go 34, 35, 36, 37, right here. That's pin 37. And according to our instructions, pin number 37 is the green wire. So they're all pretty much in the same area with the exception of number 7 right here, which is the red power wire. So this is going to be pretty easy to get these connectors out of this, right? And of course, we'll have these instructions that I'm basing this tutorial off of course, in the description below. Basically, these connectors come apart pretty easily. You're going to have a zip tie here that holds the bundle of wire here. I would just remove that. Then the cover just slides off, and then you want to get the flat end of your tiny little screwdriver. Pretty much stick your itsy bitsy in there and pull out. It should come out pretty evenly. Once you've pulled out the bottom one, you can just push these out. Now we've got the white and the black blocks by themselves, and as you can see here, we see who's truly behind all the Sprinter problems. BMW, how could you? Anyway, at this point, it's pretty easy just to pull the pins. As you can see, highlighted pin number 7, and it's red. So pretty much you want to depress the tab on this side, and then these wires just pull right out. So I want to give you electrical nerds who are, you know, much better at this, much more qualified at this than I am, a chance to look at this connector and maybe tell me what kind of connector that is so I can order some of these. Now remember, we've already got one half of the connector already going down, so I'm going to take this other half, find the red wire, and just connect the red wire together. Something like that with some nice fancy heat shrink, and then I will be able to wire these wires directly into the ECU, plug this connector into the cruise control switch, and purple's going to have cruise control. Now, of course, I'm not just going to be using any basic crimp or anything. I'm going to be using these solder and seal wire connectors. These things are awesome. Pretty much you just insert both ends of the wire and heat the center. When the center melts a little bit, your wires are soldered together, they're sealed, and then I just go in afterward and I add some heat shrink around it just for extra protection. Cool. So we'll have links for both of these kits in the description below. These things are awesome. I love having both of these around when I'm working on wires. Ta-da, all heat shrinked. Of course, regardless of whatever method you're choosing to install your cruise control switch, disconnect the battery first anyway. I'm going to be removing the ECU from its hidey hole up here. So you just want to reach your hand up there, grab the ECU, and just pull it straight down. Like so. Now you can just bring the ECM down. If you're having some trouble just pulling this up, you might want to consider just taking a screwdriver and very, very, very gently pulling it up a little bit. It's starting to go. It should be easier to pull out. There we go. And as you can see, no damage done to the ECU. So, unfortunately, just like the way the connector goes into the ECU itself, your F cover might be a little stuck. So just get a little screwdriver in under here where there's a little dot on the cover, and then just try and pry it out towards you. It comes forward like this. So as you can see, there's nothing in pin 7, and there's definitely nothing in any of the other cruise control pins. So I'm gonna mark where I've got to put my pins real quick. If 1, 2, and 7 are at the bottom, black goes on the bottom, white goes on the top. This is not my first time doing anything like this. I have replaced individual injector wires using methods like this before. And now it's the reverse of pulling the pin out. So I'm going to start with the gray wire into cavity 51. Make sure the tab end is up. Okay. Alright, it's unfortunately very hard to get any film of this, but you already marked your pins. You just have to remember where they go, what the numbers are, and reassemble everything accordingly. So I'm going to insert all my connector wires, and then I'm going to reassemble. Alright, so I just wanted to show you what everything looks like now. As you can see, here's our cruise control harness now dangling from the engine computer. I have reinserted the wiring harness with 1, 2, 7 on the bottom. 7 matches with the lone pin 7 there, which is for red. That's true. And then all these other pins here, 51, 52, 50, and then let's see, that'd be 37 and 38 are occupied by their proper colors. Now, mine had a little difference in that I have a brown wire on my harness instead of a green wire, but luckily the brown and the green wire are the same. Brown and green both represent ground, and every other wire on this matches with every wire on this. All right, I think I'm ready to reapply the zip tie here and pretty much put everything back up there. There we go. Like so. So pretty much you need to put it as far up as it'll go, and you gotta kind of feel around to where it wants to go, and then just push it up, and boom, that's it. So now I've got my cruise control harness dangling here. I've got the other end of it. I'm ready to pretty much connect this thing and test it out. Connect, test, and then hide. So, of course, at this point, you're going to want to get your van reprogrammed. Now, if you're in the area, Florida Van Man can do that for you. I actually do have a way to do it that doesn't require the DAS for your T1N Sprinter. Anybody else, I would say try a Mercedes dealership, except we have had reports from one subscriber that a Mercedes dealership literally couldn't figure it out. So, that's awesome. Otherwise, you want to try your local Sprinter specialist, maybe a local Euro specialist. Be careful with your local Euro specialist though, because just because they're a Euro specialist doesn't mean they know about Sprinters, you know. Alright, so now if you've done your coding, all you have to do to test it is to get above 20 miles an hour. Push up, and cruise should be engaged. Looks like it is. I'll push in to disengage, and I started slowing down. Awesome. Thanks for watching, guys.
If you like our content here at Florida Van Man, you can support us by liking, commenting, subscribing, and ringing the notification bell so that you get a notification every time we post a new video. In the description box of all of our videos, we also have links to our favorite products, as well as links so that you can get your very own Florida Van Man merch. Your support keeps our vans rolling.